All right. Hey, what is up, guys? Alex from thetechnoclass.com here, coming to you with a new selfie show, our show that compares smartphone cameras with each other, or at least compares a lot of cameras with each other. Hopefully, I'm not lagging. By the way, hopefully, you're watching this in a high resolution stream so you can see the camera comparisons quite clearly. So, today we're comparing four phones: the Starmobile Crystal, which is very, very old. You can't buy these anymore. The Xiaomi Redmi 2, which is very, very new, very affordable dual LTE phone. The MyPhone Rio 2 Lite, and the MyPhone Rio 2. So these are all 8 megapixel cameras. I shot these on a tripod with the settings, all the same settings: 8 megapixel, highest quality resolution, or highest bit rate, or whatever you want to call it, all on the same focus points, all on the same at the same time on a tripod. So never there will never be an issue where they will not have the same circumstances of taking pictures, same light, same time of day, etc., etc. So without further ado, we are going to compare the camera shots, exact same camera shots on a tripod between the Starmobile Crystal, the Xiaomi Redmi 2, the MyPhone Rio 2, and the MyPhone Rio 2 Lite. All are 8 megapixel cameras. We're going to start with the MyPhone Rio 2 and the MyPhone Rio 2 Lite. All right, so we'll make sure which one is which. The Rio 2 Lite is this one, so we'll put that on the right side. And the Rio 2 is on the left side. Very, very simple. Hopefully you're watching this in a high resolution enough stream so you can see the difference in quality. So Rio 2 on the left, Rio 2 Lite on the right. And in terms of this kind of a bright shot, you won't really see a lot of difference. You know, very, very bright. Can't really see much difference. So we're going to zoom in here. Noticeably here, there's a bit of softening on the Rio 2 Lite. I definitely noticed the Rio 2 Lite is slightly less quality in terms of cameras. You can see here on the leaves on the darker side of the shot, definitely more detail on the Rio 2 shot here compared to the Rio 2 Lite. By the way, the Rio 2 has a Sony sensor. The Rio 2 Lite has a Samsung 8 megapixel sensor. Of course, the Rio 2 Lite is also much, much cheaper. Well, not that much cheaper, but a little bit cheaper. All right, so we're talking about now the Rio 2, still Rio 2 on the left, Rio 2 Lite on the right. Definitely better quality or better lighting shot on the Rio 2. Definitely much darker on the Rio 2 Lite. In terms of detail, they're pretty much the same, except, you know, the Rio 2 can see more because it's a little bit brighter. All right, let's move on to the another indoor shot here. Very, very similar shot here between the Rio 2 and the Rio 2 Lite. Key thing to look at here is the 12.1 megapixel logo right there. Very, very hard to read. You should look at definitely look at that, because that's a key thing to notice later on when we compare it to the Redmi 2 and the Starmobile Crystal. All right, so let's look at the memory card required. So if you look at this part, if you watch this in high res in 720p, the Rio 2 gets a little bit more detail over the Rio 2 Lite's camera. So they're not the same camera, definitely. They're different sensors, and the Rio 2 gets better pictures over the Rio 2 Lite. And here's the low light shot. We're just gonna browse just quickly, just zoom in here. This is a little bit more, what do you call this? Debatable, which one is better. Personally, I think the Rio 2 takes a better shot. It gets a little muddy here, especially on the plaque. As you can see, it's turning a little bit into mush, a little bit muddy on the Rio 2 Lite. But both of them pretty decent shots most of the time here. Bright shot, indoor, definitely the Rio 2 wins over the Rio 2 Lite. Both of them are not super duper tack sharp, but they do a pretty good job. All right, so we're going to close the Rio 2 Lite now because the Rio 2 is definitely better. We're going to move the Rio 2 onto the left and compare the Rio 2 to the Xiaomi Redmi 2. Now, my problem with the Xiaomi Redmi 2, well, I guess a sin that I did is I mistakenly deleted the bright shot of the Xiaomi Redmi 2. So we're going to compare the indoor straight out. The Redmi 2 on the left, the Rio 2 on the right. Here, the Redmi 2 seems to have gotten the colors a little bit better. But in terms of details, I think they are pretty much the same in terms of details. A little bit softer on the Redmi and a little bit noisier on the Rio 2. But that's a personal preference which one you want. Here, the details are definitely what you want to look at here. Because, for example, we're going to zoom into the Redmi 2 12.1 megapixel logo right here, and the Rio 2 12.1 megapixels. Hindi mo na makita. You can't see the Mega Megapixels on the Rio 2, but on the Xiaomi Redmi 2, you can still see the 12.1 megapixel writing. Let's go on to the memory card required part of the picture. And both of these letterings, they're still readable, but there's a clear winner in terms of which one is cleaner or at least less blurrier. The Redmi 2 definitely took a better shot here than the Rio 2. All right, so let's go to the low light picture here. I think in this picture, the Xiaomi 2 got a better color, got the colors much better because my wall is definitely that color instead of this reddish. Seems to be turning red on the corners of the Rio 2. Or actually, the Rio 2 has taken a very reddish color on the Redmi, over the Redmi 2. All right, so look at some details here. Let's look at the Tang. I think this is pretty much the same, yeah. So here the Rio 2 is definitely a lot noisier. The Xiaomi has gotten all of the colors right without a lot of noise. And it doesn't look like, I don't know what you call this, very blotchy. So as you can see, the corners of the coin bank is easier to see versus the corners of this design on the Rio 2. Let's go on to the plaque and to the books. All right, plaque and the books. All right, so definitely, I think the Rio 2 is a little bit softer, especially on the Cocology book right here, Kokology, Cocology. And on the Xiaomi Redmi 2, a little bit easier to read, and then you can look at the way of the sheet, the way of the whatever you call the shepherd, way of the shepherd. A little bit more comparable. I think they're pretty close in terms of camera quality. But the Redmi definitely gets, especially on this indoor shot right here, definitely got more detail in terms of the memory card lettering right here and the 12.1 megapixel lettering on my Canon camera right here. So another win for the Redmi. Number one, the Rio 2 won over the Rio 2 Lite. Number two, we pit the Rio 2 versus the Xiaomi Redmi 2. Looks like the Redmi 2 is a clear winner here. Now we're going to compare the Xiaomi Redmi 2 versus Starmobile Crystal. And of course, if you remember what I said, I accidentally deleted the flower shot from the Redmi 2. So we're not going to compare the flower shots. We're going to compare directly to the indoor mid-light or indoor detail light. All right, so here we go. Here is the shot right here. Number one thing you should notice is that Starmobile Crystal is a little bit noisy, but much sharper. On the, I don't know, a bit of a vial, you can still see some of the lettering here on the Starmobile Crystal. It's a little bit reddish. Here on the Xiaomi, it's a little bit softer. and it's harder to read, or at least make out that there is a lettering on this little piece of paper right here. It's a little, some people will prefer the softer image, but most people will prefer the sharper one, especially if they want to show it on and post it on Instagram or whatnot. Here is a big thing that I like about the crystal. On the left side, of course, the Starmobile crystal. On the right side is, of course, the Xiaomi Redmi 2. Both look pretty good, but the Starmobile crystal seems to be much brighter. I don't know how it got much brighter, but as you can see right here, you can still see the background floor, brown flooring on the crystal, but on the Redmi 2, it's much darker, much darker. Looking at the detail here, memory card required. Let's go over here. This is pretty much the same. This looks pretty much the same. The Starmobile crystal has a brighter shot, and the Redmi 2 has a the colors are not blotched. The colors are more softer, or not spotchy or whatever, noisy. And on the crystal, it's definitely much more noisier, as you can see right here on the blue. Noise on the left, crystal noisy, Xiaomi not noisy. Let's go on to the 12.1 megapixel lettering right there. There we go. So same deal here. This black texture right here on the camera is softer, definitely nicer texture on the Redmi, but in terms of sharpness or extreme sharpening, the Starmobile crystal wins, because you can clearly see the lettering, mega, and pixels. Here on the Xiaomi, it's a little bit more blurred on the A or whatever. Definitely, there's a lot of, what do you call this? There's a lot of software sharpening on the Starmobile crystal, but aesthetically, it's definitely much better, especially in terms of how the shot is much brighter than the Redmi 2. Here on the low light shot, seems the Redmi 2 has gotten a better color, but let's compare the details here. All right, so let's look at the plaque. All right, so the Starmobile crystal has a sharper plaque, but the colors are definitely way more noisy. The Redmi 2 is a little bit more softer and a little bit more washed out, but the colors are better. Most people will probably prefer the sharper shot, though. As you can see, if you look at the lettering here, so there we go. All right, so here's the lettering versus the lettering here. A little bit sharper on the Starmobile crystal, a little bit softer on the Redmi 2. Now let's compare the background little box right here. This is probably where you would say the Starmobile crystal wins, because of the sharpness of this lettering on the background versus the softness of the lettering on the Redmi 2. Here's another example of how it works. Starmobile crystal, you can still see the font, the small little lettering here. You can't read it, but on this red boxes right here, you can still see there's some letters going on right there. On the Xiaomi Redmi 2, it's very you can't really see anything. It's just a blotch pink. And let's go over to the Tang coin box, coin collector, whatever thing. All right, so here, definitely the Starmobile crystal is much noisier, but when you zoom in, definitely there's a lot more noise on the Starmobile crystal. The Xiaomi Redmi 2 has gotten a nice color here. Not a lot of noise. Definitely managed the noise quite well, especially here on the Tang logo. That's a big. that's what noise does. You know, that's what extreme sharpening, extreme noise does. So personally, I think the Starmobile crystal still wins it because of the sharp shots. For example, here on the coins, you can still clearly make out some of the coins here on the Starmobile crystal shot versus the Xiaomi Redmi 2. It's a little bit more blotched. Most people will prefer sharper images, and even if it's noisy, compared to more blotchy images. For example, you can't really see the dual pure cinema perspective lettering here on the crystal on the Redmi 2, but on the Crystal you can still clearly make out some of the letters on this DVD player. But yeah, that's definitely because of a bit of sharpening. You can see playback and whatnot. But yeah, very, very close between the Starmobile Crystal and the Redmi 2. But in terms of score, I would give the Crystal a little bit more points. Now, lastly, I don't think we need it, but we're gonna quickly compare the bright shots of the Rio 2 and the Starmobile Crystal. So as you can see here, definitely the Crystal wins in terms of sharpness. It's just one reason is because the Starmobile has a lot of sharpening software-wise, but it's just it looks better anyways. And of course, the Rio 2 Lite is a little bit worse in terms of sharpness, so it's definitely much more obvious here. So definitely Crystal wins overall for some reason, because it's a god, I don't know, god of all local brand phones. So if I'm going to give it a score, I'm going to give the Xiaomi Redmi 2 a score of 8. The MyPhone Rio 2 a score of 7, a close 7. And the MyPhone Rio 2 Lite a score of maybe 5.5 or 5. I can't give it 6. It's a little bit lower than that, but 5 is still pretty good. In terms of Crystal, I might give it a 9 or a 10, but whatever. I still haven't found a phone that can, at least in this price range, that can beat the Starmobile Crystal. Anyway, that's the quick comparison in between the Starmobile Crystal, the Xiaomi Redmi 2, MyPhone Rio 2, and MyPhone Rio 2 Lite. Guys, if you like this kind of comparisons, I know it's unusual. I know it's kind of very, very weird. But if you like these kinds of comparisons, you should definitely let me know. You give me a thumbs up or whatever. Tell other people about the comparisons, because if not a lot of people are liking these kind of comparisons, I don't want to waste my time just doing them. But if you guys find this kind of camera comparisons, very important, then you should let me know, because we will do more. We'll do one for the Zenfone 2. I'm very, very curious what kind of quality that camera has. But yeah, that's it for me. Alex from thetechnoclass.com here. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.